somebody, how some group or task force can pull that data together to find those kernels?
Great questions. Thank you for asking that question, because when I talk to police audiences, I tell them there's a way to do that. That, you know, you're basically having triage, right? You have a lot of possible threats. You have to triage them somehow. So right now it's accidental. So the FBI was warned about Cameron Zarnea. It did a little investigation. It put him on the watch list. He told them he wasn't going to Russia. Watch list pings when he buys his ticket to go to Russia. Pings again when he goes to the airport. The CIA had sent a note to the airport saying, if this guy shows up at an airport, detain him until we can question him. He's allowed to fly without being questioned. He comes back, the watch list pings again, nothing. And then he goes off and does the bombing. Now, what the agency said was, we had too much information that day. So he was going through JFK, and the customs people said there were too many people who were on the watch list that day, so we couldn't stop them all, right? So it's this accidental triage, right, where I would imagine that not all of those people that they were looking at, the direction was detain him on site at an airport, right? So you have to have some kind of triage, and my explanation or argument is use reasonable suspicion, right? If you have a standard where you say, somebody might say that guy's squirrely, all right, that doesn't help me any. I have a guy here who a foreign government has told me he's in communication with active militants and has a plan to travel there and join them. All right, that's reasonable suspicion. I can now suspect that that guy is doing something, so I'm going to prioritize him over somebody on the subway saw a package left alone. All right, could that be a bomb? Yeah, it could. But chances are, no, that's going to be somebody left their backpack when they left. And if we put all our resources in chasing that low-level stuff, then when something real happens, it's going to get past us. So those standards weren't just there to protect the innocent. They're there to make the government more effective and more efficient in who they look for. So it's a standard that the government should want because it makes them better, rather than what they sold, which was we should have no limits in what we collect or limit our.
I don't know if I need
Oh,
the mic.
sorry. Actually, if we could pass the mic. Sorry, I pointed to this person here, and then we'll go to your friends. Okay. Sorry.
I have a couple of things that are related to how to make things change. And two examples I wrote down is if the police don't arrest the guilty one, you said if they looked it out and they don't arrest them, what could be done? And the other one was, how do we get media to talk about the important things? So this is just two questions of many. How do we really make those things change?
Sure. So we all have a voice, and we have to use it. In New York Daily News, since I complained about the military, I'll tell a good story about the military, about the press. I'll tell a good story about the press. In 2013, New York Daily News did a story about homicides in New York City. New York City does better than the national average. They solve about 75% of the homicides. But the Daily News went further and broke it down by borough. If you're murdered in Manhattan, 89% chance that's going to get solved. Move outside to the outer boroughs, it drops significantly. If you are a white victim, 85% chance that's going to be solved. 20 points above the national average. If you are a Latino victim, it drops to 55, 10 points below the national average. If you're a black victim, it drops to 45, right? So they went further than that and analyzed where homicide cops work. If you're murdered in Manhattan, 15 detectives are going to be assigned to that murder. If you're murdered in Brooklyn or the Bronx, 2 or 3, right? So this is resource choices that the government's making that are opaque to most of us, except for that great reporting. And, I've been telling that story since 2013 when it came out. It's now 2018, and it's getting a little old. Well, that was a long time ago. I would love that the Daily News, which now I think is going to be doing even less of that, kind of reporting is what we need so we as citizens can say, you know, I could see a mayor of New York saying, look, if murders and homicide are unsolved, tourists won't come to New York, and if tourists don't come to New York, the people in the Brooklyn and Bronx are going to get hurt just as bad as people in Manhattan, so we have to put more resources there. I can see that argument, but is 15 versus 3 detectives on a homicide the right ratio? I want to see a public debate about that, and us as a community to decide, no, our neighbors in Brooklyn and the Bronx need protection as well, and we want to make sure that we're solving the crimes that affect them. And I'm sorry, the second one was
The other was getting the media to talk about the important things.
you know, again, using your voice and changing the channel. You know, I mean, a lot of these, they depend on clicks, and if you start looking out for, and I tend to be skeptical of every, you know, it's my training as an investigator. I want to see it. And there are a lot of really good outlets out there that are tiny, that are bloggers, who they are focused on one issue, and they know that issue backwards and forwards, and they're keeping up with it every day, and you can get that information that never gets up to the big news stations, but you can learn a lot about what's going on, and particularly with local communities, because local journalism has suffered so much and has changed that, you know, making sure that you're supporting your local bloggers, that you're making sure you're supporting any local journalism, because that's going to be what affects your community most directly.
Hi, thank you. You talked about the importance of organizing by private citizens, and you also talked about widespread data collection practices and that being subject to abuse. Well, one of the primary ways that groups like this organize is through social media platforms like Facebook. And I'm wondering, from your point of view, is there something that we should be concerned about the amount of information we're putting out there through social media groups and expressing our opinions on views